I'm Shua, and you are listening to Light Up with Shua, a weekly podcast to open our hearts and minds on a journey with me. Assalamu alaikum, Celene.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And greetings. Thank you for being here and agreeing to have a conversation with me. I know you're a busy person. You have a lot going on. You have a daughter and your dissertation going on. So anyways, tell my listeners your full name, who you are, what do you do?
Hello everyone, I'm Celene Ibrahim. I'm a Muslim chaplain at Tufts, and I'm also in a dissertation year fellowship at Brandeis University, finishing a dissertation on women figures in the Quran.
Wow, that's an interesting topic. What else do you do?
Yes.
At Harvard? What are you doing at Harvard?
No, for the moment, these are my two main
Okay.
focuses.
Okay.
In the past, I've led an institute that looks at religious diversity in the American landscape and draws together people from different faith communities to collaborate on social justice projects and mutual opportunities for learning. In the past, I've led trips to different places that have enabled students to explore multi-faith encounters.
So you traveled with the students?
Yes.
Oh, where?
Yes. So when I used to teach at Andover Newton Theological School, one of the core competencies was the ability to border cross. Oh. And they defined border crossing in their curriculum in a number of ways, but one of the ways was a religious border crossing. Many of the people at Andover Newton were preparing to be ministers in Protestant denominations and UU denominations. And other largely Christian settings. And one of their competencies and one of their reasons for having me on the faculty there was to increase their interreligious understanding. So we were able to travel and visit different places all within the United States that helped people really get immersed in a different faith context.
So it means you have been engaged with interfaith, interreligious since how long you have been part of this environment?
I'd say it's been since I've been a teenager, actually, because as a teenager, I was able to attend a very multi-ethnic, multi-religious school. And so from that point on, it's always been something I've sought out in life, and something I really enjoy is the cross-cultural and interreligious encounters.
So I guess we'll come back to that, all interfaith, interreligious and all. First, I want to know that, are you a parent?
Yes, so I have an 11-year-old daughter at this point. She just started 6th grade.
Oh, wow. So how is it going with her?
Yes, we're finally in a school that she really feels comfortable. We were in a school where there was not quite as much diversity, and because she's biracial, or as she likes to say, she's African American, as in she was born in Egypt, which makes her African, and her mother is American, which makes her American.
Okay.
And so because she holds this identity. It's core to her being. She was born in Egypt. We travel back there frequently. I think for her to be in a school where there's more ethnic, racial, religious diversity, it's much more enriching, and it lifts a little bit, I think, of the pressure that she was feeling around noticing that she was different, and even at a younger elementary age.
Interesting. So did you pick on her discomfort, or did she express it to you? Like, is she so close to you that she talks about it to you?
So she would just ask a lot of questions and say things like, I am different. And she would ask me, am I brown or am I white? And then she'd say, I'm kind of a mix.
Oh, yeah.
And when she was very little, at one
point,
when she was little, she said, "I'm kind of like what you get when you mix light chocolate ice cream with vanilla ice cream."
Wow. Seriously, she said that? Oh, that's
this is when she was 4 or 5.
She's a smart.
She's aware that there was something just different in her upbringing and her experience, and the fact that we did occasionally use other languages in the home, and that her grandparents were abroad when many of her other classmates were just down the street, and things like that. She would notice.
Wow, that's interesting. Nice. All right, so I'm sure, so when you were planning to be a parent, were you planning to be a parent, or it just happened, or you were thinking of, like, did you educate yourself to become what type of parent you want to be? Did you both think about it? Like, was there any conscious decision of being, what kind of parents did you want to be, or it just happened the way it happens and then you just learned on the job?
Yeah, so I met my partner, my husband, during a study abroad experience when I was in college. And we actually, as kind of maybe taboo as it was, we got married when I was in college. And I took a year off where I was doing intensive language studies, but I wasn't doing as much classroom studies. And during that year is when I was thinking about life and knowing that I wanted a career and knowing that I also wanted a family. And I knew that for many women, it was difficult that they had to interrupt their careers at times to start a family. And I thought, well, I have a lot of flexibility in terms of my schedule, and I have a lot of energy. I'm young. Yeah. I thought, well, why not?
That's a good
decision. As I was thinking about it, I said, well, by the time I'm 40, if, God willing, I have life, my daughter would be 18, we'll still be close in age, and then I'll still have a lot of, maybe opportunities in front of me. So I was thinking a little strategically in terms of organizing.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it just, I just felt like I was ready. I felt like
that's good.
I had done a lot of the things that I wanted to do in my early 20s, and
so it means you had so much clarity at that young age about, like, get this thing out of your way kind of thing.
Yes. Well, and it also, I think it had a lot to do with, too, finding someone who I really felt like was a partner and kind of wanting to go on this adventure together.
So tell our audience, so you are born and brought up in
the Poconos of Pennsylvania, which is a very rural area by the borders of New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
How did you become so intercultural or interfaith that you were okay to go to Egypt and you were open to, getting married to another faith and totally different culture?
So I had the opportunity to travel with my family a little bit as a young person, and we oftentimes had people from different cultures and ethnicities, and I'd say just in general, people would come to visit us. We had an exchange student for a year, and so as small as my horizons still were, there were glimmers of different experiences. And I was always intrigued by kind of the hill beyond the hill I knew. I think that's just kind of a little bit of an innate part of my personality. So, I was adventurous and curious at the same time. So when I had an opportunity as a teenager to study at a boarding school that was social justice focused and a very internationally oriented program that was called the United World College. That really opened the doors for me quite dramatically because there were not many Americans in the school. So I think there may be about of a population of 250 50 or so Americans. So everyone else was from countries around the world. I think the years that I was there were 83 countries represented out of a student body of 200. So it was not your average, even international school. And that experience opened a lot of doors, and I literally made friends who were from across the world, and I got to travel a lot to see them and to visit their families. And nice. That was a very formative experience.
Means your parents were very open to it in order for you to travel, and it was okay for them, for you to have friendships and be open to other
Yes, well,
cultures.
My first international trip abroad alone was to Cuba, so I just gave them a good first experience, so that everything else compared to that was not as, and this was the time when Cuba was not as open as it has been of late.
You have been adventurous.
So this has always been my approach, that if they just get used to maybe the most difficult thing, then other things seem closer. More.
I need to hang around you more to learn all these strategies.
Yes, well, I have to say that I think I was aware and alert as a young woman traveling, but it is a little bit of a risk, and I'm fortunate. There were times that maybe I got off the bus at the wrong stop, and I was just fortunate to have had things work out. But I know that looking back on those experiences as a parent, I think it would be tremendously difficult.
Would you allow your daughter to do all this?
We'll have to see.
So now you have to see, huh? But you will let her travel.
I think she's been traveling since
she's born,
the day she was born. We've been...
I mean, you wouldn't have an issue if she wants to travel to Middle East or go to Egypt or travel all the countries in Middle East or Asia.
I think travel is so important to the soul and to the psyche, and that experience of being in places where you're a minority, or where you have to learn the language, or where things are just so different, you realize what you've been accustomed to is only one way of doing a particular thing. I think these experiences are crucial. I wish maybe even more people had access to those types of experiences.
So you think that has helped? I mean, obviously you both are, born, brought up, your husband and you. So you grew up as a Catholic?
My mother came from a Methodist family, and my father came from a culturally Catholic family that was more committed to religion as part of an outgrowth of their Italian American identity. And I didn't start going to a Catholic church until we started going to a Catholic school, and I don't think my father would contradict me when I say he realized that tuition for parishioners was less than tuition for non-parishioners. And so we joined the church.
Okay, that's good. He knew how to, navigate. Okay. So let's get back to the parenting part at least a little bit more. And then, because we are talking about the cultures, because you are such a multicultural... You yourself are so open and have been, connected to another culture and the faith, the faith of Islam, and you are a Muslim scholar. It is very interesting to see and be friends or learn about you, how you have been navigating and maneuvering yourself in the United States and how comfortable you are. And so for our listeners, it's a good educational...
it's interesting because I really do feel like I have a foot in both worlds, because by virtue of growing up here and having a pretty quintessential American teenage experience, but then also then I am living in my 20s and 30s, I'm now, as a religious minority, having a completely different understanding of the American experience from this vantage point.
I think let's keep going in this, because this is so related to your being a parent, like how it must be affecting, or how you both are bringing up your daughter in this environment, being interracial, and then the current situation about Islam and Muslims, and you are now a majority has become a minority faith-wise, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you are white, you're American, born, brought up here, Christian, and now you are a Muslim. Not now, but you have been for some time. Mm-hmm. And so how do you balance that with your daughter? Like, what do you do? Like, people or parents in your shoes, what should they, maybe you can suggest from your experience, what should they do to make their children's experience less stressful? Or in schools, or what can they do to help them have these identities that you carry with you?
I think I've gone out of the way in many cases to make sure that Rahma has both Muslim friends and then friends who are non-Muslim as well, so that she feels nurtured from different aspects of her being. And it's sometimes sustaining the friendships with her Muslim friends has been difficult because people move and we're not as close, and they're not necessarily down the street. So oftentimes I would drive an hour or more than an hour for a play date to have that.
To have the similarity in her.
Yes.
So does she want to do that, or is she okay with any kind of, like, is she more comfortable with Muslim friends?
I think she does different things with different sets of friends. That's nice. So she'll have sets of friends that she can go camping with, and a different set of friends that she'll go to Eid parties with, for instance, so that she can feel a sense of community around holidays, or with one set of friends, they'll talk, using Muslim words, and
Muslim lingo.
Exactly. And so she's learned at an early age sort of how to code switch and kind of how to determine which setting she's in at this particular moment. And then I think as well, she always consistently comes up with new and sometimes really difficult questions about.
Well, she's your daughter.
Yes. Well, I sometimes I don't know how to answer them. Like questions about when she hears a news program about Muslims doing a particular violent act in the name of Islam, and she's trying to think, how do they get that from this religion that I'm learning? Because I've not encountered what I'm now seeing, and she asked me, Mommy, Islam doesn't teach that, does it? And things like this, and that's the easier end of the questions. The harder end of the questions, I think, is maybe some of the religious or theological questions. And then I really have to think of ways. I mean, some of the topics are very hard, and I have to think about ways to broach them with a young mind. Can you share
one or two of any of
experiences or questions? I have some reservations about Quran translations in English. And at one point she was reading the Quran and came upon a passage that talks about, and the translation was probably not the best one, but it was about kind of men controlling women.
A step higher or whatever.
Yes, it was one of these type verses.
Depends on the interpretation,
And I heard her close the book really quickly and just kind of sat there with this look on her face. And it was a moment that I had to say to her, well, you're reading the Quran through a filter of the lens of the person who translated it. So don't take what you're reading
as the last, the best interpretation.
Exactly.
So do you know Arabic? Right?
Yeah, I've been studying it for many years now.
Okay, so like in terms of the Quranic Arabic, right? So are you teaching your daughter? Or you plan to?
It's a long process.
Yeah, it is a long process, but
she has, I work with her, and then she also has a young woman who works with her through Skype.
Yeah, that's nice.
2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is important that there's someone aside from me or aside from my husband also kind of contributing to this effort. And especially because she connects with this young woman, because the young woman is also kind of a halfie, as we say. She's half Egyptian and half American, and can really understand her experience and understand the kind of struggle of having to learn Arabic textbook style because what's at home is colloquial or these types of things.
So that might help her, because I wish I learned early on. I'm trying to learn, but it's going to take me some time. And I am not doing the way once I think I have heard, like, you have to really delve into it every day and learn the Quranic Arabic. But anyways, so I was thinking like her, so that would you want her, did you introduce her some other interpretations, or in this type of situation when you see her, thinking about something of that nature, what do you do then? You said that, right? That, okay, don't take this word as the interpretation. But then do you introduce her to other interpretations, or do you interpret for her?
Yeah, so a lot of my scholarship in Islam has actually been on gender relations.
Oh, so that's where I'm going to be coming. Women in Islam, and that's the hot topic of
the last 20 years.
So why don't we talk about that so before that, tell me any suggestion to the parents about their daughters or sons being a Muslim in this United States of America today. What are the things? I have heard about bullying. Have your daughter been bullied, or did you encounter anything of that nature? And what do you do in those situations?
Yes, it's very hard to tell. She's certainly come home to me and shared complaints at different phases in her life about feeling that she's different and feeling that no one really understands her and things like that. So for a while, I actually homeschooled her for a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
We homeschooled, and I think at that particular stage in her development, it was a good idea.
I think that's good.
Yes, and I think I can never tell because she's very outgoing. She's assertive, and you never know what is just a personality kind of clash with somebody, or what actually does have to do with kind of cultural difference or religious difference.
There wasn't anything obvious, the way we have been hearing in schools and in, there has been a big issue about Muslim students or young children going through, distressful moments in schools.
She was the only Muslim in her school. And before we moved to this new school, she was the only Muslim in her school. And she did pray during breaks, and she did wear a scarf, so she was also visibly Muslim. And when she first started wearing the scarf, I think she got a little bit of questioning and maybe some mild teasing. And at one point, I only remember one day when she really came home in tears because of it. But children come home in tears from school for lots of reasons.
Lots of reasons. You didn't want to conclude on that.
Exactly.
Which is good.
But she did say that teachers said that they liked it and that they thought it was nice and things like that. And she said that most of the kind of mild teasing, if you will, would just be from her peers, her own age. And I think she's pretty thick-skinned.
Oh, that's good. Well, I guess she has been trained well, huh? Who is the trainer? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with me through this exciting episode. Please don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode of Light Up with Shua.